Welcome to the Eight-Limbed Path. I am Renee, your guide through learning the 8 limbs of yoga. As always, I like to emphasize I'm your guide, and what you get out of this is up to you. However, I do hope to shed some light on a different way of thinking or living through this journey. A recap of Module 1, the history. If you did watch this module, this will be a recap. If you moved right on to the 8 limbs, it's just a brief history for you. Classical Yoga, 200 CE. The classical period is defined by Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, the first systematic presentation of yoga. This is where the physical aspect of yoga comes in. Patanjali organized the practice of yoga into an 8-limbed path, containing the steps and stages towards obtaining samadhi or enlightenment. Patanjali is often considered the father of yoga, and his Yoga Sutras still strongly influence most styles of modern yoga. One of the 8 limbs is asana, which is the introduction to the physical practice of yoga. Prior to this, if you didn't see the other history module, prior to this, yoga was known to be more of just chanting, singing, sharing secrets, and so on. But now we're starting to see the physical practice, the asana, like the yoga poses and the styles of yoga that is practiced today. My goal is to give a practical and usable understanding, and I never claim to be a scholar or a historian. What we will learn. What is the 8 limbs? Why practice them? What are the 8? And a breakdown of the 8. What are the 8 limbs? Patanjali was an Indian sage who is believed to have authored or compiled the Yoga Sutras. A sage is a profoundly wise person, a person famed for wisdom. So kind of like even a guru, if you wanted to say that. In Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, the 8-fold path is called Ashtanga, which literally means 8 limbs. Ashta is 8, and Anga, limb. Patanjali's 8-fold path offers guidelines for a meaningful and purposeful life. These 8 steps basically act as guidelines on how to live a meaningful and purposeful life. They serve as a prescription for moral and ethical conduct and self-discipline. They direct attention towards one's health, and they help us to acknowledge the spiritual aspects of our nature. With this, just keep an open mind. Don't get too caught up in the history. If you are a big history person, then I encourage you to dig deeper into books like the Upanishads or the Bhagavad Gita. But my goal is to guide you through a practical daily understanding for today's knowledge. Why practice them? Yoga is a very practical practice. While its goals are lofty, it is a practice that starts where we are and builds on that foundation. It also comes in many forms. Learning to live fully in the world provides a space in which we can cultivate our spiritual practice and delve deeper into the heart and soul of being. Wow, that is deep. And also, when I'm speaking spiritual here, it really is what drives you. It's not any certain religion. It's more of enhancing your current religion and your belief systems. In many ways, they resemble the 10 Commandments in that they are viewed as very black and white. For instance, lying is wrong. End of story. There is no room for discussion or growth on this principle. You are either telling the truth or you're lying. These paragraphs here, these quick paragraphs, were by Darren Main in the Yoga and the Path of the Urban Mystic. That's his book. My delivery and disclaimer. I don't claim to be a historian, a Sanskrit scholar, or professor. I am a full-time professional yoga instructor, master herbalist, esthetician, and enthusiast with over a decade of experience in guiding people through yoga and Ayurveda as their guide. I have a lot of hours put into learning, teaching, guiding, and working with all types of people. It has been an amazing path. I love to share from a real-world perspective and bring positive insight to better daily habits and routines. There are more structured and traditional translations out there, but I choose to deliver the message in a positive manner, in a way that we can relate to them in our world as we know it today. Nishala Joy Devi and Darren Main's studies and books have been a big influence for me. The famous 8. With this slide, the left column is the traditional Sanskrit word. The middle is known to be how most translations label it. The gray zone to the right is a realistic, positive, and more practical and nowadays way of practicing them, and my best shot at trying to portray these to you in a manner that you can use these concepts. While I don't want to spend a lot of time reading all these exactly, you can pause the slide at any time. You can also track back and revisit this slide at any time. But all these words and concepts are pretty much intermingled as I break them down individually. So without spending too much time here, we will move on. But you're welcome to pause at any time if you want to sit and absorb this. The first of the 8 is the yama. At the very top there, you see the number 1, and it says yama. A yama is the reflection of our true nature. It's often referred to as the 5 restraints of yoga and our ethical disciplines. But the second someone is told to not do something or that it's a discipline, they want to do it right. Let's think of them as they are part of a practice of how we treat ourselves as well as others. With the theory of how we treat ourselves is probably how we treat others. When you are hard on yourself, you are probably hard on others. While the yamas are things we should avoid becoming or doing, think of it more of simple acts of kindness, love, truthfulness, integrity, generosity, honesty, balance, moderation, and awareness of abundance. Kind of like Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. Not too much, not too little, it's just right. If these things are not practiced, it can bring chaos, violence, untruth, stealing, disillusion, and clutter. The roots of these imbalances are emotions of greed, desire, and attachment, which may be mild, medium, or excessive. We all tend to be guilty of some of these at times in our lives, sometimes more than others. They only bring pain, ignorance, and a feeling of being suffocated or overwhelmed. Patanjali strikes the root on these imbalances by changing the direction of one's thinking along the 5 principles of yama. So again, at the top, the first of the 8 is yama. But within this first part of the 8, there's 5 subsections underneath. And the 5 subsections, if you go back a slide, you'll see them indented. But the first of the 5 is ahimsa. So up in the top there, I'll always put which principle or which yama we're on. And then after that, you see the word yama to remind you that this is part of the yama. So it doesn't have a number next to it because we're still in the first of the 8. But there's just 5 sub-subjects underneath it. So ahimsa, how we practice ahimsa is kindness, love, and compassion. It is known to be non-violence, non-harming. It encompasses restraining from judgment, resentment, cruelty, and so on. So really, to sum that up, it's easier to say it's practice of kindness, love, and compassion. To yourself, it includes how you see yourself and how you treat yourself. You are your worst enemy. When out of practice, we tend to overthink things. If you are practicing kindness, love, and compassion, there is nothing to overthink. Just practice from your heart. Have you ever met a stranger who was very rude to you? You wonder what you did to deserve their anger. Well, it's not you, it's them. They are probably very angry with themselves and are inflicting that on others. Kindness is your greatest strength. Practice more kindness to yourself, and then it is easier to practice kindness to others. It sounds so simple, right? Yet we find ourselves in vicious cycles of beating ourselves up, expecting too much from ourselves, asking questions we may never get answers to, and not even realizing how everyone around us feels about this too. Chances are your closest friends and family can feel this. Stop. Take notice. Go on a walk. Do something other than overthinking whatever it is. I have a song, and the lyrics from the song that my friend wrote, he's a friend of mine. Even though he's become very well known and is actually making great money as a singer, songwriter, and performer, he still second guesses or judges himself constantly. Anyway, here are the lyrics. Pick Your Head Up by Cody Quayles. Ironically, this is the second time I'm recording this slide. The first time I tried to read this like reading a poem, and it just doesn't really bring justice to the song. I don't know if you can Google it and find it and listen to it. It's a beautiful song. But right here, right now, I want you to go ahead and either pause the video and just read it to yourself. Just take notice of the words, how he speaks, how he talks about judgment, and it's criminal the way he treats himself, and that he just really needs to pick his head up, and he's the only one who can do this for himself. It's a really good song and well-written lyrics, but I just can't do it any justice by reading it to you. So just pause here. I'm also going to pause for a moment and give you guys some time to read it. But if you need more time than what I give you, then just physically pause the slide here. Again, if you do need more time, just pause and come back to our recording when you're ready. But I hope you get something out of it. If you can ever listen to the song, the way he sings it is really inspirational and good, and it's kind of hip-hop-ish. It's a really good song. You would like it. Satya. Satya, up in the corner there at the top, is also a yama. We're on the second of the 5 subcategories of the yamas. Satya is truthfulness and integrity. In yoga, this goes beyond telling another person a lie, but it does include it. If the mind thinks thoughts of truth, if the tongue speaks words of truth, and if the whole life is based upon truth, then one becomes less heavy, less burdened by guilt towards others and ourselves, and we find a place of lightness. You know your own story. You don't even have to tell your story to someone to be honest with yourself. But first and foremost, be truthful to yourself and live the life you deserve. When you are more honest about your path, you can more clearly see and work to change your path and step off the destructive cycles you keep repeating. To realize you may be lying to yourself or starting to believe the excuses and stories you tell others is the first step onto a healthier path. While we do need to accept ourselves, our stories, and how we got to this point, there is always more to the story, and we can choose to take a different path. Change in the form of new growth could be your new story to tell, with truth and love. We are never too old to grow, to learn something new and break old habits. So I want to repeat that other sentence again. Change in the form of new growth could be your new story to tell, with truth and love. Become what you seek. Resist suppressing your truth while living in your own lies. A quote. I like to entertain myself with quotes. Truth is like a surgery. It hurts but cures. Lie is like a painkiller. It gives instant relief but has side effects forever. Truth is like a surgery. It hurts but cures. Lie is like a painkiller. It gives instant relief but has side effects forever. While I'm not a big advocate for surgery or painkillers, it definitely kind of is a good example of the difference between going ahead and telling the truth versus trying to tell a lie and all the side effects of a lie. Ashteya. So we've moved on to the third of the subset of the yamas. Generosity and honesty. If you are practicing these two, then you will have no need for stealing. So Ashteya is to restrain from stealing. In yoga, this goes beyond stealing an item, but does include theft. It can be stealing someone else's stories, ideas, and includes misappropriation, breach of trust, and misuse. Robbing someone of their right to something, like happiness because misery loves company, and you just can't be happy for them. You are putting your energy into the wrong hands. Put your energy into your own life. Be honest and be yourself. It's so true. People, we get caught up in our own drama that we have a hard time feeling happy for somebody else. You are robbing them. You are stealing from them that moment of happiness. And by doing so, you're just kind of wallowing even more in your own self-misery. What if by feeling happy for somebody else, you can start feeling happier on the inside? That whole power of suggestion. Recognizing what they accomplished and realizing you can accomplish things in life too. But it's your own truth, your own story to tell. Don't steal their story. Also, we rob ourselves of our own dreams when we compare ourselves to others. Your life is yours to live. When you constantly compare yourself to others, you are missing the big picture in your own life. Stealing from yourself the ability to live your own grand story. And chances are their life isn't as perfect as you are perceiving it to be. We all have our demons, battles, and struggles. By recognizing that there is nothing to steal on any level, we shift our thinking from one of scarcity to one of abundance. The many-petaled lotus that rises from the mud. We can truly have it all. You just need to narrow down what you really seek and desire. Treat yourself with generosity and honesty. Life presents us with many options. You don't have to steal it from anyone or anything. And I went crazy here. I got 4 different quotes for you. We learn through Ashtaya that everything we need in life is already within us. Don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle. I often refer to things in life that there's always a beginning, middle, and end. To many things, to cycles, even going to the grocery store, there's the beginning, you park in the parking lot, you go in the grocery store, you're in the middle of the grocery store shopping, you're in the middle of your grocery shopping experience. Then you eventually buy your groceries, check out, put the groceries in your car, come home, unpack the car, and you have the ending. So there's a beginning and a middle to everything. And don't compare your beginning to someone's middle. Meaning coming back to the thought of being happy for somebody. Being happy for somebody when they're in the middle of an achievement, something good in their life. Don't compare yourself to their middle, but rather let it be an inspiration to a beginning for you. And therefore, don't compare your beginning to someone's middle. Your beginning is your beginning, your story to be told, your truth. No mud, no lotus. Remember, we got to go through some mud and muck to get to the many petaled or the 1,000-petaled lotus. And then down here by Theodore Roosevelt, comparison is the thief of joy. So again, resist comparing yourself all the time. It steals your joy. Brahmacharya, the 4th yama. Brahmacharya has some really deep roots. I tried to bring a lighter side of it here. But it's the practice of balance and moderation. The true traditional translations where focus is on abstaining from sexual activity. One theory is that traditionally the 8 limbs were introduced at an early age as morals to teach our children. You got to remember there was a lot of prearranged marriages back in this kind of culture, and abstaining from that sexual activity to be prepared for your prearranged marriage. So really, if you get deep into all of this, it's kind of hard for us to relate to in this day and age. So let's just focus on the practice of balance and moderation, putting a nowadays twist on this. A modern day approach is to practice balance and moderation of all good things in life. All things in life can be overdone or undervalued. Finding balance and moderation in everything is key. Even too much of a good thing can be just that, too much. Spending too much money on things we think we need brings on clutter, buyer's remorse, a false identity that we have money to blow, and stress when it comes time to pay bills for necessary things in life, like taking care of ourselves. It isn't uncommon for someone to spend extra money on things, but then complain how expensive it is to buy healthy food, right? We all know that person, and that person could even be ourselves. Yeah, so keep things into perspective. That's where that whole balance and moderation comes in. Too much sunshine brings sunburn and pain. Not enough compromises the immune system. Moderation brings happiness, strong immune systems, and lightness to darkness. Or some might even say darkness to lightness if you have really pale skin. Anyway, the practice of brahmacharya should be having what you need and not too much. Again, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It's not too much, it's not too little, it's just right. And here we are to our quote. I exercise moderation and balance. Excess tends to cause suffering for myself and others. A balanced life creates personal well-being. The first sentence can definitely be a mantra that you could repeat. I exercise moderation and balance. And just keep repeating that. Aparigraha. Again, a yama. It's the fifth of the sub-subjects of the yamas. Aparigraha is non-hoarding. And this yama is a big one. There's a lot here. There's even a lot I want to say, but I don't want to overwhelm you too much. But non-hoarding, practice of non-attachment, greedlessness, through the practice of the awareness of abundance. While the 1,000-petal lotus shows us there is an abundance of opportunities out there to help us step out of stagnation or destructive cycles, we also need to be aware that the abundance of taking on too much doesn't become a burden that weighs us down. It's the yin and the yang, again, finding the balance, the brahmacharya, the balance and the moderation. Aparigraha specifically speaks to attachment, though, and not being able to let go. One should not hoard or collect things one does not require immediately. So while brahmacharya is about balance and moderation, it does come into play here. But aparigraha speaks specifically to attachment and not being able to let go. Coming back to that theory that everything in life has a cycle, a beginning, middle, and end. So aparigraha, when you get to the end of something, having the courage to let go and move on to something else, letting go of the attachment so you can experience something new, is aparigraha. Moving back to our slide, collection or hoarding of things implies a lack of faith in God or the universe and in yourself to provide for your future. Self-worth issue, possibly. Attaching to things to feel fullness because you don't trust in the universe or in yourself that you can provide for your future, so you're holding on to the past, even though the past wasn't the best. It's the only thing you know now, so you attach to it instead of moving on to the unknown. It's definitely a self-worth issue. This also applies to emotional attachments. Attaching to someone we perceive we cannot live without, or that we have lost, whether by death or a breakup. People even stay in horrible relationships because they can't clearly see life without the attachment, even when it is bad for us. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care anymore. Keep the memories and the lessons learned. But attachments give us a false sense of fullness. All we really need is pranayama, our life force. Take some deep breaths to feel full. and embrace the emptiness of breathing out. It feels so good to fill up on kindness, love, truthfulness, compassion, generosity, integrity, and honesty. Everything we really need will come to us by itself at the proper time, if we can let go. But if you're so attached to whatever it is that you can't see what's coming your way, you might miss it. Again, this one's a big one. Aparigraha is a big one. But I promise you, if you could even clean out a basement or a closet, it's a great metaphor to even the clutter that you're probably carrying inside of you emotionally. And I promise you, you'll feel more free of what weighs you down if you can physically get rid of some clutter in your life. Whatever it is you're hoarding, let it go. And you'll be so surprised how the emotions and the body feels lighter as well. They're attachments. So letting go of those attachments, you feel lighter. And our quote, "What wants to come to us is so great. What we hold on to is often so small." So holding on to these small things, you could be missing out on something great. Number 2, the niyama. So we've moved into number 2 of the 8, the niyama. The yama was the first, now we're in the niyama. And the niyama helps us move towards an evolution toward harmony. So you're trying to find harmony or homeostasis, that balance. And even more so than the balance, harmony comes with more joy and enlightenment. It just, when you even think of somebody singing in harmony, it's just beautiful, right? So you're taking balance beyond balance. You're taking it to harmony. While the yamas, the first 5 that we went through, outline things that a yogi should avoid, such as lying and stealing, the niyamas speak of things we want to cultivate to create harmony. So we just went through what we should avoid. We should avoid lying, stealing, hoarding. And now we're going to work into what we need to cultivate to create harmony. Through simplicity and continual refinement, the body, our thoughts, and our emotions become clear reflections of the self within. So we are just cultivating ourselves, trying to find a better version of ourselves that creates harmony. When we practice the niyamas, it is tempting to think that living them perfectly will somehow make us more spiritual. This is far from the truth. Striving to work them fully into your life will assist your overall being, only to clear a space where a yogi can go deeper into who they really are. To have space to think, breathe, and be free of what weighs them down. So you already are who you are, but the practice of the niyamas is going to help you live more fully and dig deeper into who you really are, creating a better version of you. Some people who follow the niyamas to the letter can still be very unhappy. By doing so, they are cultivating rigidity, and the practice should be more about purity, contentment, being at peace, igniting the internal flame, keeping focus, and knowledge your true authentic self, and surrender the yin to the yang. Life is so yang these days. Our society is very yang. It's on the go. So you want to surrender to the yin. The yin is the softer side of things. So We want to cultivate all of these things minus the rigidity. So let go of the thought that if you follow this to the letter, that you're going to be happy. Find the softness in this. Find the compassion. Find the yin to the yang. As with all things in yoga and life, balance and moderation are key. Saucha. Saucha is the first of the niyamas. Remember, there's 5 subjects now to the niyamas. So saucha. Saucha is cleanliness and clarity. This is not an easy task because of our many attachments, and we often make things worse by piling on more every day. Often our environment is toxic. The clutter around us, the people we associate with even. Saucha's purpose is to help us cease from putting garbage into our mind, body, and our space/lives. This is to help us appreciate what we already have or was already there. Cleanliness of impure thoughts about how we see ourselves. This is the ahimsa again. Ahimsa was practicing of non-violence. Or the satya, being truthful with ourselves, and so on. The first step to find clarity or to cleanse is to validate what you need to cleanse from. What makes you toxic? Your home, the space around you, people you come in contact with, or what you eat. It's kind of sad, but sometimes to create change in your life, you do need to move on from some of the people that we consider friends. It sounds harsh, but when you step outside of it and you start to realize how much these people we thought were our friends are pulling us down, when in actuality, they're not our friends. They're probably living their own drama, their own story, their own misery loves company, and stealing from you your happiness. They've stolen from you. They don't let you be your own happiness. Well, these people are not your friend if this destructive cycle is happening. If they can't be happy for you that you want to create change in your life, then that's a big sign right there that you need to let go of that toxic relationship. It's hard. We don't want to think that we're fair weather friends. But with some friends, you do have to let go of their toxic world. The practice of pranayama, breathing, cleanses and aerates the lungs, oxygenates the blood, purifies the nerves, and delivers fresh oxygen to your brain for endorphins to thrive on. But more important than the physical cleaning of the body is the cleansing of the mind and of its disturbing emotions like hatred, anger, lust, greed, disillusion, or delusion, and pride. Cleanse with kindness, love, compassion, honesty, truthfulness, integrity, and so on. Once again, do some good things for yourself. And this doesn't have to mean spending money. If you can just take a bath, sit down and breathe, close your eyes, whatever it is. Resist wanting to spend money to soothe yourself. Retail therapy, yes, that term exists, but it often creates more remorse when we spend money we don't have. So it's not the right kind of therapy. Our quote, "The body is your temple. Keep it pure and clean for the soul to reside in." All right, moving on. We're still within the 5 niyamas. We're on santosha now. Santosha is contentment, being at peace with those things we cannot change. And even the word, when you think about it, you can even just close your eyes for a moment. Santosha. It just sounds like contentment. I am santosha. Contentment has to be cultivated. A mind that is not content cannot concentrate. To be content is to know the difference between wants and needs. I always promote there is room for change in the form of new growth, positive growth. So to be content or complete in the present moment doesn't mean this is it, this is my life, or that you are done. That is being complacent. The complacent definition, feeling so satisfied with your own abilities or situation that you feel you don't need to try any harder. So if you can tell me today, right here, right now, that you are so satisfied with your life and your own abilities and your situation today that you feel you don't need to try any harder, then I accept you as a complacent person. Stay as you are. Don't change a thing. Just be you. But you have to honestly be able to tell me that you are okay with your situation, your abilities, and you are satisfied. Being content, however, means that things are as they are. You cannot change the things you cannot change. However, you can appreciate what you have now and have less desire to keep up with the Joneses, or let jealousy and greed make you desire the wrong things. When we can think with more clarity, when we can appreciate and build upon the foundation we already have, then and only then can we decipher the difference between wants and needs. So going back up to complacent, if you feel that you are satisfied in your own abilities and situation, and I told you, okay, stay as you are, don't change. That also means don't buy anything else. Don't go get that new purse. Don't buy that chocolate cake over there, because you are complacent. You don't need to change. You don't need to try any harder. But to be content means that there is still some of that room for growth, that room for moving on and doing something else with your life. Hopefully it's not having to buy that new purse or chocolate to make you feel content. Because again, those are not the best use of your time and your money. We might think they are, but it creates remorse afterwards. Also, engage the 6th chakra, the ability to think something through and sleep on it before making a big decision. You might realize you have everything you need, or that you are content with what is, and you taking on more isn't necessary. However, when the time comes to create change in the form of new growth, you seize the moment and you try. You try hard. Our quote: "Run after things of this world, and quite often what you seek so desperately runs away from you. Covet nothing, crave nothing, and celebrate whatever comes. This is the way of contentment." And that's from my book called The Zen Book. Literally, it's just called The Zen Book. Tapas, another of the niyamas. Remember, we are on an evolution toward harmony. I didn't want to bypass that too much. Bring us back to that evolution towards harmony. I love tapas. Tapas which often translates traditionally as keeping focus, discipline, or inner fire. I like to say sky above, earth below, fire within. This is where self-discipline, passion, and courage is cultivated to burn away impurities, physically, mentally, and emotionally, like boiling water to remove the impurities. You need heat, you need tapas, the fire, the internal fire. Discipline doesn't have to mean being perfect, though. This is about cultivating our internal fire. The ego is just right, not too much, not too little, and reminds us of how much we love ourselves, and life is not taken for granted. When the voices in our head or the out-of-balanced ego make up stories that we are not good enough, it is tapas that is needed to ignite, to burn away impure thoughts, and leads to more self-trust and inner fire. To fuel your inner tapas, you need to get moving, go for a walk, a hike, a run, swim, yoga, whatever you want to make, and make time for it. This is so important. Even learning something new. Knowledge is power, and keep focus on your priorities. It is really easy to let yourself become stagnant, to just let yourself go and let your inner fire burn out. So find something new, reignite the internal fire, your tapas, and let go of the voices in your head of self-doubt, feeling sorry for yourself, and any other destructive thoughts. Once again, it's the sky above, earth below, and fire within. Our quote, tapas is a celebration of life. When your inner fire is burning just right, it truly can be a celebration of life. Svadhyaya, another niyama. It is your self-study, is the practice of exploring oneself from the inside out. It's the knowledge and wisdom. However, this doesn't mean being book smart or a rocket scientist. It is actually the knowledge of yourself, how you think, how you see yourself, how you nourish yourself, and how you react to things. As you work on saucha, the cleanliness, and aparigraha, non-hoarding, and letting go of old habits or attachments, then you will feel some shifts. Satya, truthfulness, will help you see yourself for who you are, not a false identity you made up. As with anything worth doing, it isn't easy, but it is well worth the effort and dedication. Within all of us, there is an unimaginable capacity for love, but we also have a shadow side that can be overwhelming. In today's society, self-study helps you grow into your future by educating yourself today. Let go of being complacent or not trying anymore, and step into a world where you do try. Education is knowledge. It is prevention. It is power. And you only get it if you study. Learn to prevent rather than react. Change in the form of new growth rather than cycles of destruction. Become the change you wish to see in the world, not a bump on the log everyone trips over or stomps on. Nobody wants to be that. Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. Again, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. So don't lie to yourself. Be honest and truthful with yourself. For knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And that's by Aristotle. Ishvara Pranidhana. Now that takes some practice. Ishvara Pranidhana. Whew. All right, this one is all about surrender. There's a greater definition of Ishvara Pranidhana, and you are welcome to dig deeper. But in essence of time, I'm going to focus on how this can relate to the practice of taking a break from being on all the time. To surrender in yoga practice or meditation or even life doesn't mean to give up. Again, we're not being complacent here. After a long day of work and you step out of structure and surrender to what will be, go with the flow and let go of control. When you're at work, you have a job to do, and you should be very good for that. You should be good at your job. You should be mindful, systematic, and follow your boss's orders or whatever it is to create a safe environment and to produce and accomplish what you're there for. But the moment you step out of work and you go home, try and surrender from the rigidness and learn to soften. Take a break. Some of us are on all the time. We're just on. Even our exercise or our yoga practice starts to become a job. I see it all the time in the studio. There's people who come to yoga because they treat it more like a job. It's something they have to do. And they have a really hard time surrendering to just be what is. To even allow somebody to guide them through their yoga practice. To just surrender. Surrender to a job well done and a sense of accomplishment helps us surrender. This can be hard some days to recognize, especially if it's been a hard day. Every day, sit down to recognize BFD. Something beautiful, something funny, and something delicious. You thought BFD meant something else though, didn't you? And it can. There are days like that, right? But every day I encourage you to find your own BFD. Something beautiful, something funny, and something delicious. Delicious doesn't always have to be food, drugs, or alcohol. This isn't an excuse to binge. Take a bath. Snuggle with your kids or loved ones. Snuggle with your fur baby. I have even experienced a delicious yoga practice before. Even on my own, just taking time to lay on the floor in a supported back bend can be so delicious after a long, hard day. It is the yin and the yang of everything. In order to get things done, we also have to surrender and recharge. Surrender is like a fish finding the current and going with it. Mark Nepo. All right, finally moving on to number 3 of the 8 limbs. Remember, the yamas were the 5 subtitles under the yamas, and the 5 subtitles under the niyamas were just the first and the second limbs of this. The next 6 go a little bit quicker because they don't have as many sub-subjects underneath them. So don't stress. If you made it through the yamas and the niyamas, you are more than halfway there. So hang in there. Let's keep going. Number 3 is asana. Asana is the Sanskrit term for a pose or the physical practice of yoga. Asana brings steadiness, health, inner fire, and lightness. A steady and pleasant posture produces mental equilibrium and prevents fickleness of the mind. Asanas are not merely gymnastic exercise. They are postures. Asanas can be practiced anywhere and without a lot of equipment, as the limbs of the body provide the necessary weights and counterweights. By practicing them, one develops agility, balance, endurance, and great vitality. But their real importance lies in the way they train and discipline the mind. Your mind is usually what creates stories of giving up. The discipline of holding a tough posture trains your mind that you can do it. Correcting imbalances in your body and developing muscle memory alleviates pain from the past, current, or future. The mind-body-spirit connection. Emotions are connected to how we carry ourselves physically, and to open up the body, we often have to let go of past emotions, living dormant in the physical body, and vice versa. To open the mind, open your body. This is not meant to be a competition. In the early days, it wasn't practiced in groups or even given a level. It was practiced one-on-one with a master or guru for guidance, and then at home as svadhyaya, self-study, for knowledge of you and your body. Pranayama, number 4 of the 8 limbs. We spoke about pranayama a little bit in the beginning, module 1. We did some pranayama, some breathing exercises, and also in Ayurveda we cover pranayama. But pranayama, or rather prana, means breath, respiration, life, vitality, wind, energy, or strength. Prana is movement. It's even like the chi, or the blood that flows through our veins. The word is generally used in a plural to indicate vital breaths. Ayama means length, expansion, stretching, or restraint. Pranayama thus connotes extension of breath and its control. We obviously all breathe all day, every day, or we wouldn't be here. But pranayama is that mindfulness breathing, the extension of the breath and its control, finding that full inhale and the emptiness on the exhale. Almost 80% of the time, we only use a fraction of our lungs to breathe. So imagine deep, deep down in the lower lobes of your lungs, there's stagnant air, toxins, and who knows what is hanging out. So you need to extend that breath, go deeper, and stir things up. Also, your lymph drains to your lungs after movement. And almost 70% of the body's toxins can reside in that drainage to your lungs. So add that to the fact that we often only use a fraction of our lungs, and we really got some gunk hanging out in there. Not to mention when we take in toxins through the air, viruses, pollen, exhaust from cars, fumes from harsh cleaners, smoke, and so on. We're just harboring that in there if we're not finding an extended breath, the pranayama, to get it out of us. Breathing is the first thing we learned when we came into this world. And since then, we take for granted we are breathing and even abuse the privilege at times. So, to respect yourself is to respect the first thing you learned in life, and that's how to breathe. And do it with pride, love, truthfulness, and as clean as you can, as much saucha as you can. Find some good, clean, healthy breaths. Honor your lungs and breath. Without it, you don't have life. Pratyahara, encouraging your senses to draw inward. Practice of blocking out distractions. Pratyahara can be a tough one, blocking out distractions. In a world of information overload, the yoga practice of Pratyahara offers us a haven of silence. Pratyahara helps us choose responses instead of merely reacting. So when you can filter out the distractions and actually kind of take in what's going on around you or within you, it's kind of like Thumper in Bambi. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all, right? Or just stop and think about what you're going to say before you say it. Stop and think about what's going on before you react. We can choose to go with the flow of what comes our way, or we can choose to step back and not respond. The practice is not what is around you, but how you choose your energy. You can get pissed and yell at someone who is being noisy in the yoga studio, or you can practice pratyahara by blocking out the distractions. Practicing pratyahara doesn't mean run away and hide, but rather stay in the middle and consciously choose not to react. Energy is absorbable, but choose how you absorb it and utilize it. Instead of thinking about the kids who are playing outside your window as a distraction, maybe choose to think about how happy those kids are. They're outside, they're doing something. Especially in this day and age, children don't go outside and play enough, right? So instead of choosing to react to how they're disturbing your peace, choose to appreciate the fact that the kids are outside playing. Maybe even remember a time when you were a kid and you were outside playing. We sometimes lose touch with that as we get older. We just want to tell everybody to be quiet. But maybe absorb the energy, the playfulness, the beauty of being a child again, the innocence. Go to that place rather than being the grumpy old lady or old man that tells them to shut up. Dharana. Number 6. See, I told you we'd get moving through these. Gathering focus on consciousness and concentration. When the body has been tempered by asanas, when the mind has been refined by the oxygen of the pranayama, and when the senses have been brought under control by pratyahara, we can reach dharana, concentration. It is the place of letting go of multitasking, being present and having one thought. This can be even harder than pratyahara, because in our Western culture, concentration is not something that is taught from a young age. We are actually taught to multitask. As a child in school, you're sent home with multiple subjects of homework and expected to get all those subjects done in one evening before you go back to school the next day. You don't even have time to just sit and absorb the math or sit and absorb the writing sample that you are to produce. We are actually taught to multitask, more than one subject in a day. We got to cram it all in our heads. Dharana is when you catch a fly with chopsticks. You are so focused that you're going to catch a fly with chopsticks. We can tell when we're out of dharana, when we are in asana, a yoga pose, and cannot balance. When you have a day when balancing, holding stillness, or finding your flexibility is not your friend, and you can't concentrate, dharana is disturbed. Or you have a conversation with somebody, and later you can't even recall what was spoke. Dharana is disturbed. It's that asking somebody what time it is, and 10 seconds later not knowing what time it is. So you have to ask them again. Take some time to journal. Go for a walk, run, or take a bath to come back to surrender and relax your thoughts. So especially if you've been at work all day, multitasking all day, you come home to surrender. Try and let go of the multitasking. Be present. Try and just have one thought. And catch that fly with your chopsticks. You can do it. You know you can. Dhyana. When meditation is mastered, the mind is unwavering like a flame of a lamp in a windless place. That's from the Bhagavad Gita, a pretty intense book. So yeah, when meditation is mastered or the mind is unwavering, the flame isn't bouncing much. It's not dancing. It's just burning an internal flame straight up. So dhyana, number 7 of our 8 limbs. It's the meditation, the witness, the inward flow of consciousness. That would kind of be a more traditional definition. Because dhyana is usually translated as meditation. But it's more about taking notice of what comes up. When you do sit down and find stillness, and you start to be a witness to your own thoughts, what comes up for you? Once you have let go of multitasking and found concentration of one thought, you can take notice or witness. During dhyana, you hope to find clarity of thought, with an emphasis on clarity. No need to be completely thoughtless, as it's often believed. Clarity implies you can still have thoughts, but they are less cluttered. Or it can also maybe imply that you just have that one thought and you're finding clarity in that one thing. When you have clarity, this is a good time to make decisions, or you realize everything you worried about wasn't anything to worry about. It was just your mind making up drama and stories. It could have also been the environment around you, coming back to having friends that have their own drama going on. And amongst their drama, they can't be happy for you. So they steal from your thunder and pull you down to their level and create drama within that. And then you've stopped celebrating who you are. You've stopped celebrating your milestones, your accomplishments, because you've come down to their toxic level, because they have stolen that happiness from you. So when you can find dhyana, you have clarity of this. You can step outside of that drama and realize that you can choose happiness. You can choose a different path. It's very clear to you right here, right now. You don't need that attachment, that relationship, that even though it's horrible, you hold on to it because you're in fear of letting go of it. There's nothing to fear except maybe finding out who you truly are without that attachment. These are some deep, heavy thoughts. Pause for a moment if you need to absorb that or munch on it. But moving on, number 8, samadhi. Even just saying the word samadhi. Samadhi is thought to be ecstasy or liberation. As we learned in the chakra module, if you did the chakra module with me, samadhi can be known as the end. However, we also covered everything has a beginning, middle, and end. So even samadhi doesn't mean the end of all ends. It can be an end of a chapter in your life or finding closure in something so you can move on. While you do want to find samadhi, bliss or enlightenment, I want to point out that you can find samadhi in many ways. Often it is referred to as sitting in meditation. But remember, I am promoting a more realistic and nowadays idea of these 8 limbs. So enjoying a beautiful sunset, breastfeeding your new baby, watching your child learn something new, snowboarding in the most amazing powder, watching the waves of the ocean in and out. You name it. It is your BFD moment and place to surrender and let go. Remember, BFD is having or recognizing a beautiful moment, a funny moment, and a delicious moment every day. Whatever it is. Samadhi, in my definition, can even be explained as anything that brings you joy without having to buy it. However, I do want to clarify. The other day I went snowboarding for the first time in 2 years. If you know me well, you know I'm the person who at one time in my life went snowboarding 40 to 50 times a season. So the fact that I haven't been in 2 years has been kind of torture for me. So in order to go snowboarding the other day though, I had to pay to go snowboarding. So I am on a mission to find my samadhi, and I had to buy a ticket. Even though I had to buy the ticket, once I was out there, what I experienced was well worth it. While I may have had to buy my ticket, it was up to me to turn to my senses, to draw inward, to feel the earth beneath my feet, the air on my skin, and let myself flow like water downhill. To be able to have that experience, to be able to have that samadhi, sure, I had to buy my ticket. But that ticket didn't give me my experience. I had to be present. I had to block out any distractions. I had to turn myself off from my work. I have literally worked every day for 3 months without a real day off. So I had to take that moment of turning off to surrender to feeling the earth beneath my feet, the air on my skin, and allow myself to flow like water downhill. I had to just let go and go with the flow. And that cannot be bought. I have to let myself do that. I have to make that happen in my life. Granted, I bought a ski ticket to be able to do it, but that ski ticket didn't do all the work. It didn't make sure I was safe as I moved down that mountain and enjoyed myself. I had to make that happen. Otherwise, you're just buying a ticket. In conclusion, it is a lot to swallow. Pick one at a time to practice and digest slowly. These modules are here for you to revisit in any time. Some of these 8, and then of course we had the 5 within the yamas and the 5 within the niyamas. So some could almost say that this is more of 18 concepts. Either way, you might already be practicing some of it. but learning about them help reaffirm to why we need good morals and how important it is to keep cultivating these values and continue to be the change you wish to see in the world. Some of these concepts you might be struggling with. Know that change doesn't happen overnight, and positive change is found through growth. So cultivate your intentions, nourish and water your intentions, and someday you will realize you can let go of the clutter and live life lighter. It is hard to think that you, as one person, can change the world. And technically you probably can't. But practicing not being what's wrong in our world is doing something for the right reason. Don't ever give up on yourself. Be the change you wish to see. Actions speak louder than words. You can listen to my modules over and over and over. That's what they're meant for. You can listen to my words, but your actions speak louder. Just like how I said, I can buy a ski ticket any day. Anybody can buy a ski ticket. But I'm the one who had to make the experience happen. I had to get bundled up in my clothes, go out in the cold, point that snowboard downhill, and flow like water. So actions speak louder than words. They also speak louder than just buying the ticket. You have to make it happen. Remember back in limb number 2, the niyamas. Some people who follow the niyamas to the letter can still be very unhappy. By doing so, they are cultivating rigidity, and the practice should be more about softening, finding flexibility, cultivating kindness, and strengthening your wellness. As with all things in yoga and life, balance and moderation are key. All right, your own work. Journal your thoughts on the 8 limbs. Do you have a favorite? Do you have one that you know you're already practicing? Do you have one that you know you need to dig deeper in and focus on? Refine your goals and milestones. So maybe even within choosing one of the limbs or a couple of the limbs, refine your goals and milestones. If you don't have goals and milestones, now's a good time to create some. Meditate, breathe, or take some time to sit with your thoughts. Now you have more ideas to meditate to. Continue with your Ayurveda daily habits. If you did the Ayurveda module with me, continue with the daily Ayurveda habits. If you didn't do the Ayurveda module, go ahead and go back and get it, or get with me and figure out how to obtain the Ayurveda module. The daily habits are dry brushing, apply oil to your skin, the tongue scraper, oil pulling for at least 3 minutes, and drink hot teas for digestion. Those are the simple ones, remember? Ayurveda is much bigger than that, but those are your simple daily habits. Also, read a book on the 8 limbs to learn more. My favorites are Yoga and the Path of the Urban Mystic by Darren Main. He eloquently explains them as originally written, but puts a nowadays practicality to it. Or The Secret Power of Yoga by Nishala Joy Devi. She puts a positive twist on everything. She really puts in more feminine and that yin to the yang. When you think of yin and yang, she's the yin to the yang. It's beautiful. She's very good at it. Once again, thank you for your support and dedication to finding your true path in this journey we call life. Feedback is the gift of sharing. Namaste equals the light, the student, and the teacher in me honors the light, the student, and the teacher in you. Knowing I can learn from my students just as much as I am sharing my knowledge with my students, there is no doubt in my mind that I can benefit from constructive feedback from you. I value any and all feedback. However, I do ask that you provide constructive feedback and no haters. Thank you so much. I am Renee Stahl. You can find more of my offerings on my website, reneestahl.online. Or if you found me through NamaStream, then you already know where all my offerings are. Thank you. From the light in me to the light in each and every one of you. Honor your practice. Honor your life. Honor your 8 limbs, even though it seems like a lot. You can do it. Honor it. Live it. Love it. And as I bow to you all, Namaste.